We've got Chris on technical, Neil on insight, and Steve in the driving seat. It's Talking Formula One.
Good evening and welcome to Talking Formula One, your little weekly F1 pit stop. There's all three of us this week right from the start. We've got off to a very good start. With me, as always, is Chris and Neil. How are you guys?
Hello.
All right.
Good. Good week?
Yeah. Sunny Monday and I already wish it's Saturday, but never mind.
Yeah, one of those. Fantastic. It's wonderful being a working adult. Craig Taylor, new member. Welcome in. Welcome. Well, we are back as a three-piece with all of us here this week. So, well, the world of Formula One. It's been another fairly sort of busy week. We've had the last of the liveries unveiled. A surprising development on the Red Bull, was there not? Something that looks very familiar to what we've seen on a previous Formula One car.
Basically,
Silence.
they've gone for the zero pod.
They've gone for the zero pod, and they've got those strange shoulders.
I don't know.
I think they've gone. I think they've seen merits in the concept, but I don't think they'll go zero pod. I generally looking at the rear of their car, I can't see how they'll do it, and the crash structures as well. You see the Mercedes, the crash structure they had to build into the wing mirrors in order to have the zero side pods. I don't see that at the Red Bull, so I don't think they're going to go fully zero pod. I think they're going to go very, very thin, but
yeah, and they've also got those shoulders around the airbox as well. That's very familiar to what we saw last year. Ugly as hell, but familiar.
Yeah, Alpine has those.
I actually quite like them.
It doesn't look very sleek. They're sort of bulbous. They stick out.
Yeah, but you think that it's creating a big area that will separate whatever is coming off from the halo and the cockpit, separated from what's going to go to the diffuser or the top of the diffuser.
True, very true. It's I think one thing is for sure is it looks quick, and it's been out on a shakedown as well. There's footage of that circulating, and it does look.
What do you think of the nose? Because there was that section, that black section that looks like it's been just placed in where you would expect it to be, but it looks rather temporary. Yeah,
it's a strange one, isn't it? What do you make of that, Chris?
I was just looking at there, actually. Yeah, it does look. It looks a little bit far back from the first plane, doesn't it? It does looks a bit odd. Normally the yellow goes right to the tip.
Yeah. Do you think Red Bull have found something?
I feel like the front wing is an area where they've all figured out that they could bend the rules a little bit.
Yeah. What are the rules on what plane it has to go off? And because Mercedes have done the weird thing on the inbound, haven't they? They've got those two little strips on the fourth plane.
I'm not too sure, to be honest with you. One thing that I am sure of is that Red Bull have found something extra special this year again, and they will absolutely wipe the floor with the rest of the field. It's looking a bit ominous, isn't it? I really hope that we can get a good fight between Red Bull, Ferrari, McLaren, Mercedes, Aston, Williams, but it's doubtful. But
we've seen some interesting things, but it just seems very much we're being shown one thing, but we're going to see something completely different by the time it comes to first practice.
That car will look totally different. It will look different in testing, and then it will look very different again when they do get to the first race, which I only saw recently was on a Saturday. I missed that.
I'm surprised they showed us so much in the unveiling, to be fair. Maybe they had to because of the shakedown.
Yeah, but they kept the diffuser hidden, didn't they? They kept the
they carefully photoshopped their renders. There are certain areas of the car that are hidden.
Yes, yeah, and all will become clear in under 2 weeks' time, no doubt.
This week, next week.
Yeah, starts Wednesday testing, and then the race is the following weekend, isn't it? excited.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the car.
Through the charts. So yeah, testing starts on Wednesday, which I shall absolutely be watching at work. And no, I won't be working hard if any of my.
What time is it?
It starts at like 7 in the morning, I think.
Yeah, it's early. Yeah,
7 till
Is
4.
there anywhere they're showing it? Is it on Sky or?
I think it's on
It'll be on
Sky.
Sky. Yeah, Sky.
I didn't know if it was one of these where it's a pre-season session, but not a pre-season session, and cameras may or may not be able to turn up.
I think they've done it a couple of years ago. Was it? Well, a couple of years previous, they've done. Well, for a few years now, they've done pre-season testing, haven't they? Which, if you're an absolute F1 nerd like me, you love watching. Even if it's watching the new car sitting in a garage, I think it's fantastic. But we have now seen all 20 cars, well, all 10 cars with the new liveries on, 10 teams even. There's some pretty ones. There's some ugly ones. If you had to pick one of your favourites or a favourite out of the 10 cars we have seen this year, who would you go for, Chris? Got to pick a team that's the best looking.
Well, probably Ferrari, to be fair.
Yeah.
But I did see this today that Ferrari were testing engine covers. And they're shaking.
Interesting.
Yeah,
How about
they
you, Neil?
round 3, I think.
Okay.
I also like the Ferrari, but to change it up from what Chris said, I don't actually mind the Mercedes.
It's different. It does look different.
I
Yeah.
don't know what it will look. Yeah, it's all right. I don't know.
I like they've incorporated the silver and the black as well. I wanted there to be some silver on it. You know, the silver arrows have got to be. I've got to agree with Chris though. It's the Ferrari for me all day. That's beautiful. Even with the white and the yellow stripes, it's gorgeous.
Alpine close last.
Alpine are dead last for me. That is apocalyptically awful. I hate that car.
I didn't realise the pink one's been run for 6 to 8 races, I think, this year, rather than
Is
the
it?
3. Yeah, we're going to see it more. Horrible.
Okay, yay. In previous years, it might have been like, oh, all right, fine, I could do with a pink car. They look quite nice, but not the state it's in now. I only realised fairly recently that the first 2 races, because of Ramadan, are on Saturdays. So I thought that my app was wrong on my phone, or I was reading the dates wrong. No, hang on a minute, it's Saturday. Oh yeah. Fortunately, though, it's I've actually got both Saturdays off, which is quite handy, so I can still watch them.
I haven't even looked, to be fair, what I'm doing.
It's going to be. I'm looking forward to it. 24 races. You've got China back. There's a dog. Dog's always welcome on the podcast.
She's whinging. She likes Neil, though. Hello, Neil.
Willow!
No.
I don't know.
No. What is the dog's name?
Willow.
Oh, Willow.
She loves Neil.
We have a podcast dog now.
Yeah. She's whinging because she can't jump on the bed. Never mind. Anyway, where were we?
It's a long calendar. You know, you've got China returning to the grid for the first time since
Japan early in the
2019.
season. I'm
Wasn't it?
looking forward to that.
Yeah, Japan nice and early. That's usually obviously towards the back end of the season. You've got China back for the first time since 2019. Miami is still there. Yeah, there's no other new circus, is there, this year?
No, not yet.
Apart from the returning Shanghai, obviously. But yeah, 24 races is going to be a long, long season.
I forgot what racing's like in Shanghai, to be fair. So.
I think some of the races there have been pretty good. You know, it's another opportunity to hear the Dutch anthem.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Smog everywhere.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Nice yellow skies. We're doing an F1 fantasy again this year. I don't think we did one for 2023. I know we did in 22, but it sort of dropped off the boil. I can't remember if we did one last year.
We did, but we sort of stopped for whatever reason.
Yeah, because there's only ever one person you had to have in your team.
That's, okay, he's done it again. So we are doing another F1 fantasy league. So I created it about 20 minutes ago because I forgot. So I've put the link to it in our WhatsApp group. So Martin, if you are there, you may have that in the chat now. So if you're able to pop it into the chat, that would be awesome. If not, I can do it in a bit. But the link is there. So if you do want to play a little bit of F1 fantasy along with us and see who has the best F1 fantasy strategy brain and who is going to be an absolute 2021 Haas, then pop along and see.
I was having a look at it, and I was trying to think that who can you fit in around Verstappen? Really,
Are you going to have to go for like one decent driver and then
you
4
pick Verstappen.
crap
And
ones?
you try and pick 4 no opens really.
Yeah, it's like countdown, right? Like 1 from the top and 3 from the lower ranks.
Sergeant Hulkenberg and Magnussen are out of the question, so he's trying to find the rest of them.
I think I've made my team, so I've gone for Leclerc, obviously, and then you could actually, to be fair, I think they have increased the budget on it this year because I could you get 2 teams as well as 1, which is quite handy as well. So you get 2 constructors. There we go, Martin's popped the fantasy link in the chat. So if you fancy getting yourselves involved, then do join that. Hopefully it'll be good fun. I'll be revisiting it, at times over the season to see who's doing well and who needs to up their game and who's been an absolute mazepin. But we shall certainly see. It's all a bit of good fun. So, Metal Jace, evening, welcome in. Can't decide if you like the look of the Mercedes or the Haas the best. The Haas it's gone under the radar, but I quite like it. I quite like it. There's only so much you can do with a black, white, and a red color scheme. But it looks all right, to be fair. Nothing's going to beat their 2019 gold one. But
question I was actually having the other day with Haas is, how long does Gene Haas give it?
Yeah, it's a tricky one, isn't it? They've been in F1 now, 2016, their first season?
Yeah.
They've had a couple of good years. Like 2018 was good, I remember. They finished 5th, didn't they, I think, in 2018. And then...
Yeah. But the last 5 years, they've been dross.
Terrible. 2022, I think, was an improvement. But then 23, they just went backwards. And 21.
I'm about as worried about them as I was Tyrrell back in the day.
No, Tyrrell, in their time, Tyrrell were something special. But Haas, yeah. It's just... And the annoying thing with that is they refused entry for Andretti because they were concerned about the level of competitiveness they would provide. They gave us one of their reasons. But they're happy to let Haas trundle round and just run around at the back of the
problem
grid.
is they've looked at the stats of last season, and basically, even though they might have finished last, the quality of the cars and how close time-wise where they've been fighting, it's a lot closer than...
You don't get the old 107% rule anymore, do we? Where you get your Super Guri, who's trundled around at F3 pace. And have to go to the stewards to ask if they can race on a Sunday every week, sort of thing.
I don't know. I know that we take the mick out of Haas. They're a bit of a joke of the grid, really. Their qualifying pace last year was good. Hulkenberg got into Q3 so many times. Magnussen was holding the team back,
especially when it's that time when it goes from inters to slicks, because they can fire up their tyres on one lap so well. That changeable condition. They get the best out of, because they literally get the heat in the tyres exactly when they need it. Whereas home dry track, they ruin the tyre by the 12th corner.
Yeah, they weren't too bad by in sprint races. There's a handful of laps, but in an actual Grand Prix, they just went backwards, and it's such a shame because Hulkenberg was putting that car really where it shouldn't belong. He was getting in Q3 when Perez was struggling to at times. So they go Hulkenberg to Red Bull in 2025, but. It's just, I don't know. I want Haas to do well because there's something about them I do quite like. They're sort of a plucky little team. And I like Hulkenberg. I've always been a bit of a Hulkenberg fan, but I don't know. There's something about them. But yeah, like you say, Neil, how long is Gene going to give it? There's only so many years he can pile millions into this team and get such a limited return.
Yeah, to be fair, he could probably get a decent penny for selling it. I mean... That team's probably worth at least double what he's paid and ploughed into it.
Yeah,
all the teams are worth nearly $1 billion now, at least. Especially with the US market growing and him being a US man as well. So, yeah, I do seem to think if this year and next year, if it seems that they seem to be where they are consistently, I won't be surprised if he tries to offer it up to a big. Manufacturer to come in.
Could Andretti buy it?
Well,
it's more expensive than setting up your own. Maybe, I don't know what it would work out as.
The thing with Andretti is they've ploughed millions already into setting the team. They've put in a foundation of the team, haven't they? On the premise that the FIA were backing them into the sport, but unfortunately, the F1 Liberty Media or whatever it is have decided that they don't want to hurt the current 10 teams.
That's the annoying thing is, they're trying to break F1, or they have broken F1 in America, and it's becoming more Americanized, and it's more popular than it's ever been. You can have 2 American teams in there.
But you look at American motorsport; they're not 10-team championships. IndyCar have got 15, 16 teams at least. NASCAR, I mean, there's 40 on a grid.
Yeah, there is space, but the other teams don't want to dilute the price.
Americans are used to having many teams on their grid, not just 10.
What on earth?
Seems to be a European thing. So
a whole lot of banging outside. It's even like back in the day. Up until fairly recently, there was 12 teams in Formula One, because you had obviously HRT, Virgin, and
26. 26 is the maximum they can have on the grid, isn't it?
Yeah. So you've got room for 3 more teams.
We've got room for a Q4. We
have. Get Andretti in that sport, and then just, I don't know, bring back some old teams. Bring back like Super Aguri or something.
Actually, that's one thing. What is your favourite qualifying format?
Ooh, Neil?
If I'm honest, I actually quite like what we've got, because even though back in the day it was brilliant to go, right, here's an hour, fill your boots. The only problem is they just come out in the last 10 minutes.
Yeah, it's tricky. I remember the one-shot qualifying as well. I'll go with what we've got now, though, to be honest with you. I do like the knockout session. I know it's stayed largely unchanged since, I don't know, whenever it was introduced, 06, 07 maybe. But I do like it. I think they tried that a few years ago, that stupid slowest lap elimination thing, didn't they? And that was just god-awful. So I like what we got now. What about you, Chris?
I don't know whether I quite like the knockout, the one lap. I think it was a reverse of the last Grand Prix result. I think it was, wasn't it?
Yeah.
You have one, but I'll probably make it 2 laps, 1 lap.
Yeah.
And you'll do it again, another lap, and then that'll be it. But I quite enjoyed the 1 lap one. I thought it was good trepidation. You get 1 corner wrong, that's your qualifying done. And then they're all eco-friendly these days, aren't they? 1 lap, less fuel, less tyres.
There you go. F1's green. I do like the F2 qualifying, because it's like you get Q1, Q2, and then Q3, but then the top 10 in Q3 reverse, aren't they, for the sprint race?
Yeah.
And then the way they actually qualified for the feature race. I like that. I mean, doesn't apply as much to Formula One, because you haven't got a sprint and a feature most of the season. But that's a good little feature. I quite like that. Maybe they should do that for the sprint races. So you have your Q1 and Q2 as normal, and then Q3 reverse the top 10 for the race for the sprint race, and then you go to your normal order for the feature. That'd be quite good for the Grand Prix. That's quite good.
Yeah, I like the F. I like F2.
I enjoy F2. It's looking good this year. There's a lot of promising young drivers. I'm quite intrigued to see about Kimi Antonelli, see how he gets on. Because there's a lot of buzz about him in that Mercedes team. And he's caused a bit of a stir about the second Mercedes seat, possibly. Rumored that Mercedes are interested in him, and it could be him getting that second seat. Well, I doubt it, to be honest, but certainly for the future.
I generally think that next year will be an influx of F2 talent. I do. There's as we said many times, there's 4, 5, or 6 drivers in there who I think are all ready to be in F1, and I think there's 4, 5, 6 that could be pushed aside.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? Because you've got so many drivers out of contract at the end of this year. Obviously, Hamilton's going to Ferrari, but there's a seat at Mercedes. There's possibly Williams.
I think the Oscar Pistorius saga plays a little bit of a thing into it as well, where you get.
That's the second time I've called him that.
Oh yeah, Piastri. It's only good, I don't. Yeah.
Hold on, hang on a minute. Here we go.
Piastri, anyway. Piastri. with his little dealings with Alpine, who they didn't sign him up to a good enough contract.
Hmm.
And there'll be a couple of drivers within academies who would be looking at their contracts very carefully nowadays, and think somewhere else. So it's like the old Charles Leclerc was a bit the same, wasn't he? Charles Leclerc was in Sauber, he was knocking on the door. I think he pretty much gave Ferrari an ultimatum, where he wanted to be in a very good seat, and it was then or never. That's why they paid Kimi off to go to
Yeah.
Because Kimi still had 2 years left in the contract.
Yeah. Is he still doing NASCAR now? I think he was in America doing NASCAR.
Yeah, what he likes. He's doing like lawnmower racing around the Arctic or something.
He does what he wants.
Round the
If it takes your fancy, Kimmy, do it.
Where's the grass?
Wow.
He don't need no grass.
It's the most counterproductive lawnmower racing in the world.
He's got an engine, he'll race it.
So, who do we think? So obviously now we've seen all the cars being launched, all the teams giving it large. Apart from Haas, when their team principal who comes out and says, "Yeah, we're going to be towards the back, if not last." I know that realistically, you can't expect Haas to be competing at the front right from the word go. But would you still come out and say that when you're so early in pre-season and you're trying to boost your morale of your team? You've just had a new car release. Would you come out and say things like that?
I don't know, really. You're downplaying expectations, but your expectations are already very low. So,
yeah, like I said, yeah, you can't expect much, but still.
Is that the new chief just sort of saying, look, I don't think we built a very good car. It's not my fault, not my problem. We'll try and build on it. But Gene, don't sack me after 6 weeks if it's terrible.
Yeah.
The guys already come out and said that because of the upgrades they done last season, they're 2 months behind on this car.
That shows me the level. I mean, they say that Andretti, they're worried about the performance of the car when it comes in. The fact that an established F1 team has one update in the year, and then that's put them 2 months back on their 2024 car.
The only positive in it is the fact that it worked and they're now going in the right direction.
Worked?
Well,
definition of worked has been skewed there, if you ask me.
What could help them out, though, to be fair, is that this year or last year, you hadn't got Schumacher writing cars off every weekend. So he saved them millions by not crashing their cars. But I don't know. Even like I say, you expect Haas to be towards the back, but I wouldn't be coming out to my team and saying, or in the media and saying, yeah, we're probably going to be last.
It's almost like a downplaying of your staff as well. You come out publicly and say, we ain't gone anywhere.
Yeah, it's like, okay, have we worked hard enough? Are we doing a good enough job? Cheers, boss. Thanks very much. But who do you think then will be? So obviously, Haas are going to be probably last, as they said themselves. Who do you think will be that closest challenger to Red Bull? Because unless something catastrophic happens and Red Bull have made something terribly unreliable that's going to cook itself every turn, which is unlikely, it's going to be Red Bull class of the field again. Is there anyone who's going to mount a genuine threat, do you think? I know it's early days, but anyone giving you good vibes?
Well, it's only, to me, McLaren, really. McLaren and Ferrari. Ferrari were the, if they can be consistent, they'll be quite close. But McLaren is interesting because their release is very much, as we said earlier with the Red Bull, in the darkness, whereas they hid a lot of things on their renders.
The front nose and front wing basically look like it's last year's.
I don't. That car they released is not going to be anywhere near the car they bring out this week.
They've got a Mercedes-esque, because like you said, the Mercedes had the structure of that little wing where they went from the zero pod to with that wing to have an actual side pod. McLaren haven't quite gone to that extent, but there's a little wing on above the top of the start of the side pod.
I hadn't noticed that.
So both them and Red Bull are taking little bits of inspiration off of that car.
Intriguing. I think if Red Bull, if McLaren can be, like you say, as consistent as they were towards the back end of last year, and that car is quick, it could be a good season for them. I think they'll win a race this year, McLaren. I think they will actually get a race win.
It just depends
I
if
think it'll be very good.
the thing is, if it's just an evolution of last year's car, it might still struggle. There's so many tracks that has slow corners, and there's other corners with strong traction zones and things, and McLaren have said that's their weakness.
The big thing I think with McLaren is the driver lineup. Not that it's not good, but it's probably too good.
Well, I feel this year, Hamilton, do you reckon?
Yeah, we were saying the last year that Oscar Piastri was Lando's equal, if not maybe better during qualifying. But only he cooked his tyres. His racecraft wasn't quite there. He's had the whole winter to go away and look at all his data from the year. And second season normally will be better. I mean, he's won a sprint race. We all know he's got the speed to be up there. And obviously Lando also has been the golden boy for the last 4 or 5 years at McLaren. He doesn't seem the type to be a bit, Alonso-ish, shall we say, back in the 2007 days. But you put under that sort of pressure by your teammate, if you've got a Grand Prix winning car, your mind does funny things.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think the only thing that they'll do, that I don't think it'll go anywhere near the Alonso Hamilton extent, but the only thing I see them doing would be, one of them's quicker than the other. Can you pull over for them?
But you look at Max and
they just
Sergio,
say no to that sort of thing.
Yeah, Max and Sergio. Max is always pulling rank. They won't have that. I don't think McLaren will go that that extent. No. So you'll get frustrations, and then that's when next time that won't happen on the track at that very point. But next time, if it's the other way around, the guy will then think about it and not do it, or question it.
It seems strange. All of last season they were talking about we've got Oscar Piastri, so we've got a number one driver regardless of whether Lando Norris hangs around or not. And then just before all of this crazy Lewis Hamilton news, they suddenly signed him up to a big deal.
Yeah.
So
the rumours were around. Apparently, the rumours were around that the big move was coming.
Well, there's an interview last year where they had a team, like a press conference, and then someone asked Charles Leclerc what he thought, what his ideal teammate was. He looked at Lewis and went, "Hello, Lewis." Okay. Strange. Metal J, did you see reports that the future of the Las Vegas Grand Prix could be invalidated, according to the Clark County Commissioner?
Yeah.
I did not.
Hang on a minute. He's misspelt Miami GP there.
Yeah, if only. If we had to get rid of one of them, I
didn't mind Las Vegas as much as we ridiculed it. That was a decent.
It's actually all right. It was actually a good race.
Was it a one-off though?
I hope not, because it was actually quite enjoyable. Apart from the stupid.
Even if it was a one-off, it was one more than Miami.
Yeah, Miami is just a constant shocker. At least Las Vegas had a genuine battle for the lead with Red Bull and Ferrari. Amazing. Also, said reports that Adrian Newey could be heading to Ferrari with Hamilton. Could you think that could depend on what happens with the whole allegations, investigations thing? Do you reckon?
Yeah,
if you're not going to go.
It's supposed to be saying if Horner goes out the door, then he'll probably follow suit.
Yeah, new rules. Isn't there new rules 26, new engines, new thoughts, new concepts. Maybe
he could be along the same lines as Lewis, have his final hurrah at Ferrari.
Come back to Williams. They need him more than Ferrari.
Need Ross Brawn a Ferrari.
That'd be amazing. We've not got too much longer, so we'll wrap it up fairly soon. So if you do want to join the F1 Talking F1 Fantasy League we've got, then the link is in the chat. I'll pop it onto our Twitter X page as well. If you don't follow us on there, it's at Talking F1 Fans. I'm trying to be a bit more active on that because I've let it slide recently. So I'm trying to get a bit more active on the social with it as well. So head over there, give us a follow. I'll pop the link in onto that as well. If you do want to join in, it will be great fun. But this is the last sort of pre-season Talking F1 show we're doing. because testing, as we say, starts in a couple of days' time. So by the time we get to next week's show, testing will be done, dusted, wrapped up. We will see who may be in with a shout, who will be last Haas, and who really has been sandbagging, or who do you think has been playing their cards close to their chest and seeing what happens. I love testing. It's always a bit of an intrigue, but we shall see. So thank you very much for joining us again this week. Absolutely great to have you all with us. Great to be back with all three of us as well. From the start as well. It's been fantastic. So thank you very much, guys. We shall see you next week, 7:15 on Monday. I have been Steve. He has been Chris. He has been Neil. Somewhere there is Willow as well. Podcast Dog is back. We love it.
Just like.
We shall see you next week. Cheers.
Bye.